We're back second day this week. Hopefully, keep this streak up for a month instead of just a week like I did last time. And as you can see, there's another lovely face here today. Ahmad Hussain. He's been very engaged with my previous live videos, and I've had lovely conversations with him before. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to bring him on, talk about what he does, because this man contributes to the economy, as you can see with his guns, um, and, uh, and his mind. That's an even more powerful tool. So I just wanted to just give a quick intro to talk about maybe what you do, your interests, and your second interest.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So, hi everyone. My name is Ahmad Hussain. Follow me on Instagram at Silent Soup. The O is a zero, actually. Yeah. And I'm currently in biotech. I'm working in a nonprofit organization called IGEM, International Genetically Engineered Machines. I do a bunch of stuff over there. I try to reconnect with old teams that worked on specific biotech projects, ranging from cancer detection systems or decarbonization systems or oil cleanup using bacteria. And we try to move those projects forward, see if we can create startups out of them, create publications out of them, or inspire other teams to take up where old projects were stopped. That's one thing I do. I also do some policy research for biotech, see how we can open up the space more economically. We're trying to move towards an open materials transfer agreement in biotech. That means like people using genetic
Modifications,
like genetic designs.
Okay.
And like because we know like most of pharma, they have their trade secrets and there's a lot of patenting involved. We're trying to go towards the open route. That's kind of hard to do in
so you're trying
biotech.
to open source big pharma.
That's a
open
stretch.
source GMO.
Biotech for now.
Okay, biotech for now.
And this very small cluster of biotech for now.
Okay.
But yeah, basically, I do some policy stuff. I do some. I did do some hands-on designing stuff with biotech before, but right now I'm more in the managerial space.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's inspired you to? Well, I want to focus on the whole open sourcing thing. What's inspired you to work on that?
So
Why not just lock in the profits?
Sure. So my brother is into open source. He does like a bunch of coding, and he's running for the open source side of the AI fight currently happening. We have like Llama from Facebook and who else? OpenAI. They're fighting from the non-open source side, but there's a huge open source community for AI happening on the side as well.
Right.
If you go to there's a
website. OpenAI started as open
True.
source, and then became for profit.
Exactly.
What do you think of that?
I think they had to because of the competition they were getting from Facebook and like Facebook right now has one of the biggest AI models, which is crazy. We would have never thought that. Like OpenAI was working on it for a while before even Facebook. But yeah, I'm all for open source. Okay. And why I was interested in that back when I was doing my iGEM project. So I was involved first as a team member. We had our team. We were working on this project for enzyme production. And one of the things we were doing is trying to open source enzyme production for people outside of academia and industry, because usually it takes a lot of money to produce enzymes. If you look up enzymes, if you want to buy anything for your lab, it's like this much. It's like $500. Like
wow,
this amount. So it is very expensive.
And we're talking like lactase, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Mostly DNA polymerase. If you want to do any DNA work and like design your own plasmids, design your own DNA, RNA. There are a few others, but DNA polymerase was the one we were working on.
Can you do this at home? Or like what sort of equipment do you need to start this at home?
Well, it depends what the question is. So we were designing a plasmid so that people can then take it to their community labs and use that.
I see.
And
community labs,
you can start at home. Yeah, for sure. I know people who have started big companies. There's this company called FredSense in Calgary. They had like a closet of a lab in their university, and then they built that up to a multi-million-dollar company. So
okay.
You just need like a PCR, polymerase chain reaction. It's like this big.
Yeah.
There's like a $500 one. It's like open source.
So it's like a $500.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
And yeah.
I mean, people spend more on their camera.
Exactly. But you're gonna spend more with like keeping the cells alive, right? It's like it's an ongoing thing with biology. You want to keep the stuff alive, like the freezers, and because you keep all the DNA in the freezer, and you got to keep it going because some like over a year it can degrade. So you got to keep growing it.
See, I think this is really cool because generally biology, you think, oh, the human, the animal, the mammals, like medical, but there's this whole like technical application beyond that. It seems.
Yeah. A lot of what I'm trying to do is because we see a lot of biology in health, and medicine is definitely like very important. But I'm trying to see how can biology be applied elsewhere, like industrial biology. We have, health was one of our industries, there's like the 11 sectors, right? There's still going to be materials where biology can come into play. Something I'm working on right now is carbon nanoonions, which you can derive that material biologically. And
nano-onions or
nano-onions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, ions? No.
No. So you know the Nobel Prize they won for developing graphene.
Graphene.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they had graphite, and they took a piece of tape, they ripped it off, they found a single sheet of carbon, and that was like an amazing thing.
Wow.
So yeah, the guy was like doing his like science show, and he just did that in front of the audience. He's like, "Whoa, wow, I discovered something." So yeah, that's graphene, and if you roll it in the tube, that's a carbon nanotube, and if you have multiple layers on top of each other, that's a carbon nanoonion. And that, because it's layered on top of each other, you look at like the chemistry configurations, the electrical configurations. It's useful for
biotech necessitate chemical understanding and chemical applications. Like you need to move, because I think we were talking a bit earlier. It's like biology, applied biology, and you start working yourself towards chemistry. Is that
everything's connected?
Everything is connected.
But I did say that the material is derived from biology. Right. So this carbon nanoonion, you can get it out of certain fish scales. Apparently, there's this like research that came out. If you put those fish scales in the microwave, then the fish scales somehow turn into carbon nanoonions. That's as much as I can explain right here. But I'm trying to figure out how to make that even more of a biological process. Like, how do we create those fish scales in bacteria? But that's a separate point.
Interesting. But
anyway, so we have materials, we have electrical that you can put biotech in. Maybe you could use electrical eels to generate electricity. I don't know. There's also certain proteins. There's this bacteria, I think Mycobacterium, that can generate electricity from the air or from like the hydrogen in the air. And not many bacteria can do that, if any. So we're thinking maybe we can use that protein and put it into like bacterial fuel cells and use that for energy. So there's a lot of different sectors we can.
So when it comes to like these applications and these new sectors, and being an entrepreneur myself, I know that when you're trying new things, increasingly I realize that a cultural shift or a cultural implementation, both within the team and outside the company, is very important for actually pushing the boundary, for getting people to recognize you, for getting people to understand what you're trying to solve even.
Right.
Can you speak to like the cultural shifts, changes that are happening or are needed in your industry to facilitate more research or more work in these intersectional fields?
Good point. So there are some companies that are working on the cultural side. And for example, I don't know if you've heard of Ginkgo Bioworks. I think it's the biggest biotech company. It's in the US. They do like metabolic, excuse me, yes. Cool. They do like metabolic engineering of bacteria, and they make perfumes out of bacteria. Apparently, that's one of the things they do. Okay. They obviously do some health related stuff as well, but they're working a lot on the culture war, let's say. But a lot of it comes down to people's perceptions, because GMOs are a big thing of what we work with, right? And a lot of people have a negative view of GMOs. Probably they have a reason to have that view, because it has an effect on agriculture and like our health. We don't understand how bad it can be. Obviously with the COVID vaccine, like people still don't understand what the RNA in our body can do. Like people are still doing research on that. So there's still a lot to be figured out, but I kind of see there has to be a way to maybe contain those GMOs to like do our research, do our development. Um, but yeah, there hasn't been a lot of shift in there just because of the perception of GMOs being bad, and we want to like maintain our biosafety and maintain our ecosystem safety and all that.
Do you think that enough research inspired by a belief either for or against the idea can help provide more clarity? Or do people ignore the truth and just believe their cultural biases?
Well, as a scientist, I don't know the truth, but
we're always chasing the truth, but you never know the truth.
Yeah. But also, as a scientist, I do have a bias towards change.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of like maybe policymakers have a bias towards maintaining the current order, and so we have that fight. Like, I want change, they want order. Who's gonna win? Right.
Right. Well, we're at Economy, we're after change. There's a lot of things that we're trying to work around the order to make happen. And I think you're on the change side of things for now.
Yes, sir.
Although I think I've appreciated regulators before and policy. I think I used to not appreciate them and used to think that they're just red tape, just getting in my way. Yeah. But they do their part to kind of, I think, protect society or just slow you down enough to think more about how do you address these concerns, so that it is actually more acceptable and generally safer for society. Nothing, again, at the end of the day, is 100% safe, is it? No guarantees in life.
We just had Oppenheimer come out, right?
There you go. But I think we'll end it there. Perfect. Continue.
Before we end it, Barbie or Oppenheimer?
You know, I've not actually watched either yet.
Same.
I do want to go to the 70mm film thing in Langley to watch the proper Oppenheimer. We'll do that.
Perfect. We'll do that.
Thank you. Take care.